1 year ago this week, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office canceled the Washington Redskins' trademark registration because they considered the NFL team name to be disparaging to Native Americans. This has been a long battle, including a lot of people on one side who are very offended by the team name. The team is arguing that it's a free speech violation. In March of this year, just a few months ago, the Justice Department defended the trademark revocation, saying, quote, "Not only do trademarks function only minimally as a vehicle for expression, but trademark registration also involves the necessary participation of the government in approving that registration, which confers relaxed First Amendment review, even when combined with the free speech, with the speech of a private party." And that's a really good point, which is just because you can't trademark something and hold exclusive license to make money around that thing doesn't mean that your speech is being limited, that the First Amendment is in any way being violated. It's just that we're not giving you exclusive license to make money around this. Others can also use this image or logo or likeness.
Mm-hmm. And this fight is still happening. We're not hearing much about it now. It received a ton of media coverage 1 year ago, but the team owner said that he will never change the name. His quote was, "We will never change the name," and it seems like it might be here to stay for quite a while, at least until there's a new owner or something huge happens.
Yeah, and it's interesting also because you might remember the Washington Wizards, the NBA basketball team, when I was a kid, were named the Washington Bullets, and that was changed. Washington, D.C. certainly having a gun violence issue and violent crime issue. And the feeling was Washington Bullets maybe is not the right name, and they changed to the Washington Wizards. And again now, although for different reasons, a Washington professional sports team having an issue with their name.
Indeed, it's and I think the name should change, but I understand. I mean, they have built this empire, and how do you just completely change that name that is on so many things?
Do you agree that there should be limits on what team names should be? And if so, who should impose those limits? Because here we're talking about a trademark issue, right? The team isn't being forced to change their name. It's that the trademark is they're being told the trademark was revoked. Should teams be able to be called anything? Could you have, the Dallas Kikes or the Chicago Niggers? Should that be allowed?
Well, I think perhaps it should be allowed. I think we know exactly what would happen if someone were to name their team that. It would not be a successful team. You would be doomed. And
so you think the sort of free market of ideas would dictate that team wouldn't do well?
I think yes. I think to some extent that I would say maybe I sound like Rand Paul here, but the free market would handle that. But that is different from actually discriminating against an individual because they might be black or Jewish, right?
Yeah, it is different. And so, a team is allowed to be called the Dallas Kikes, for example. Fine. Nobody's going to block them from having that name. But at the same time, you could have TV stations who say, "Oh, we're not broadcasting any Dallas Kikes games because we're not going to say that on television." And then you have all sorts of charities who say, "We're not going to be involved with this team because we can't be involved with the team called the Dallas Kikes." And you might actually this might be a case where it would sort of sort itself out in some way.
I think it probably would. Now with the Redskins here, it seems like this is the only team I can think of where this is an issue. Occasionally teams change names, not really so much in the NFL, but in other sports. And no one's going to make this mistake again. I mean, I think the Redskins are pretty much the only ones here that have to deal with this.
There is the issue with the Cleveland Indians and Atlanta Braves. In Atlanta, these are two baseball teams. In Atlanta, the tomahawk chop that is done at Atlanta Brave games considered quite offensive. And then, of course, Cleveland Indians, when Indians is not a term that makes any sense when we're talking about the natives to the United States. I recently actually was watching, I think it was an Anthony Bourdain show, and he was talking to some South Carolina barbecue guy, and the guy was talking about how the Indians were some of the developers of barbecue. And I'm so not used to that term being used to refer to Native Americans that I thought, in India? I didn't know barbecue was from India. And then within a split second, I realized, oh, this guy is referring to Native Americans as Indians. And it seems very, very sort of anachronistic at this point.
It's odd. And I don't know if it's offensive. I'm not sure if there are people who take offense to that. It just seems kind of silly.
Yeah, I don't think Cleveland Indians is necessarily offensive. I think it's sort of an antiquated term that doesn't make sense. The tomahawk chop and the red-faced painting at the Atlanta Braves games, I think that's certainly offensive.
Yeah, that's a little bit different. I think they could probably work on their etiquette there, but the team name, I think we can agree, is probably fine.
All right, let us know your thoughts about this. The Redskins, the Braves, the Bullets, the Indians, whoever, the Dallas Kikes, if you so please, to let us know what your thoughts are on that. We will take a break. We've got a great interview coming up next. Tort reform is going to be an issue in the campaign, and we will revisit a discussion about a so-called frivolous lawsuit, and then your audience questions coming up after that. Remember, the Indiegogo campaign is on. Make your donations at davidpakman.com/donate.